Yeah. Yeah. This one's for the movement.
Peace and one love. You know,
The warriors,
this is for the movement.
lovers, the builders. RBG, red, black, and green. Ever seen? New Black Panther Party, we ride serene. Aaron Michaels lit that fire in the night. Born from the struggle, still shining bright. Dr. Kelly Mohammed, voice of the flame, told us to love black, never feel no shame. Malik Zulu Shabazz brought that righteous law. Power to the people, that's what he saw. Hashim and Zinger taught discipline and grace. Black unity forever in the sacred space. Black power, love, it's the rhythm of our heart. New Black Panther Party, where the revolution start. RBG colors in the sky above. Red for the blood, black for the love, green for the land. We rise like the dove. New Black Panther Party, black power, love, love. Babu X on Mawali, wisdom in his eyes, taught the youth the truth, how the spirit never dies. We meditate, elevate, liberate minds, balance in the struggle, harmony divine. Daryl Hawkins leading, next generation flame, carrying a torch in the Panther name. RBG flag, the soul we breathe, each color in the rhythm of the life we weave. Black power, love, yeah, that's the vibe. New Black Panther Party, let the freedom ring. RBG colors, the code we do. With us, power, love, we strong, we just. New Black Panther Party, in love in us. From the pain we rise, from the ashes we grow. RBG light got that eternal glow. We fight with our hearts, we lead with our soul. Healing the nation, making the people whole. Aaron the Hawkins, that line's still alive. Every name a legacy that helps us survive. The rhythm of resistance, the melody of peace. Black power, love, the world's release. New Black Panther Party, say it proud, say it loud. New Black Panther Party, love in the crowd. RBG is the heartbeat drum. New Black Panther Party, we overcome. Black power, love, shine from above.
Peace and love, peace and love, peace and love. It's one thing I do love about my music, my Black Power music.
New Black Panther Party, forever in love.
And who we should be. And that's what it's about. It's about black love. I don't care what you may call yourself. If you're of the dark skin, you can call yourself Ethiopian, you can call yourself African, you can call yourself American, African American, Jamaica, Haitian. But the final conclusion, we're black race, came from a dark source. We're a dark race from a dark source. See, it's the mindset. That's why the scriptures tell you to renew your mind. And one day we'll talk about that renewing of the mind, because that's what most of us do. They get on Facebook, they promote blackness. We're just trying to renew your mind. We're not saying we're more intelligent than you, that we're greater than you, or anything like that. We're saying wake up and look at the truth for what the truth really is. You know, there's so many of us running around here talking about we're free, but we're nowhere near free. Most of us don't even have an idea of what freedom consists of, what freedom looks like. I don't know what you call freedom. But I'm sure your freedom is not my freedom. I want a freedom where I know I can live in peace and love and harmony with nature and the things around me. That's the peace that I want. I don't want no other peace. No other peace whatsoever. So today I'm just coming to you in this recording to just speak to you and share some things with you as we listen to some of the music that I'll probably be playing. I don't own the copyrights to none of this music. Matter of fact, I don't own the copyright to anything. Because there's no such thing as own. I'm not here to bring division. I'm here to bring unification. And if you're not about unity, if you don't think about unity and what it would do and what it means and what it feels like, if you can't see it, you can't achieve it. You have to see it first. You have to see yourself having it. You have to walk like you already have it. Faith is believing in things unseen, not things seen. Things unseen. So you have to see it, trust it, believe in a black kingdom ran by only one king, and that king is us. We're all kings and queens, but we live by one law, which is the law of the black kingdom. And we'll talk about that law later. Right now, I just want you to listen to the music. Enjoy that we're going to bring to you. Hopefully you'll get just a little something out of it. You know, we got to stay on our purpose. What is the sole purpose of a panther?
We move in spirit and discipline. Panther soul, black gold. Let's go. The sole purpose of a panther, rise up, never fall, that's the answer. Revolution in my chest, I'm the standard. Mobilizing all my people with the banner. Let's go. I'm spiritual, cultural, political. My vibe, original, my code, biblical. Self-determined, never fictional. A panther stay militant, mind critical. Let's go. Heart of a lion, soul of the Nile. Every step militant, every move style. We the vanguard, move with a smile. Across that line, we protect our child. Spiritual roots, I'm grounded deep. Ancestors speak when I'm half asleep. Culture in my veins, politics in my reach. I'm a panther in the field, not a talks and speech. Nah. The sole purpose of a panther, rise up, never fall, that's the answer. Revolution in my chest, I'm the standard. Mobilizing all my people with the banner. Be respectful, keep it G with the world. Show love to the elders, uplift the girls, but demand that same love back, no slack. We build in unity, we don't crack. Militant moves, but my heart stay pure. Organized power, that's the cure. We think before we act, that's mature. Revolution steady, that's for sure. Stay humble, lose that ego. It's bigger than self, that's how we grow. Discipline sharp like a spear in snow. Mission over pleasure, that's the code for sure. The sole purpose of a panther, rise up, never fall, that's the answer. Revolution in my chest, I'm the standard. Mobilizing all my people with the banner. I'm spiritual, cultural, political. My vibe, original, my code, biblical. Self-determined, never fictional. Stay militant, mind critical. We don't don't chase fame. We build the flame.
I want y'all to remember this now, because this is the
Discipline, love, and power. That's the game. That's the sole purpose of a panther. All power to the people.
All power to the people. Our people. And when I say our people, I'm not talking about all of us. Because there's some among us that is not of us. I'm going to say that again. There are some among us that look like us, but are not of us. Listen, I'm going to bring to you some things today, and I want you to listen to them closely. I want you to spend this time so that we can edify one another, move towards greatness with one another. It's time for us to unite. It's time for the like-minded ones to unite. Every beast of the field associates with its kind. We have got to learn to seek out our kind. There's a lot of things you're going to hear that's going to come from me that is not what you would normally hear, because I don't think like this world. I don't seek the things of this world. What I seek is my lost brothers and sisters, so that we can begin to unite. I want to bring my lost brothers and sisters back to the fold, back to who they are. Because once they come into the knowledge of who they are, they will want to unite with those that are like them. What I got to give you ain't for everybody. It's only for the chosen. It's not for the weak. It's not for the timid. It's for the chosen. It's for the special ones. It's for those who are different, strange. And if that's you, then I don't have to tell you to go down there and hit that subscription button. You're going to automatically do it, because you're going to know that we're on the same plane, because my spirit is going to connect with your spirit. It's one spirit. So, as I said, I got some things I want y'all to listen to today. I want you to take time out and listen to this, and I'm going to take a break.
Divorce? No. Only the most privileged people in your society can still tell themselves that blatant lie. Only the most privileged in your society could possibly believe that. You believe that your country's violence abroad is somehow separate from the conditions at home? I mean, tell me how. Tell me how. You think that a nation can have a split personality? You think that you just get married to Dr. Jekyll and you never have to deal with Mr. Hyde? You think that you can be a good person while maintaining complicity in a fundamentally evil system? That's the peak, that's the pinnacle of cognitive dissonance. And it's an insult to even the concept of what being a good person is. You need to understand that when the West, the sort of official voice of the West, the governments, the media, the elites, companies, corporations, and so on, when they use words like morals or values, or when they use words like justice or human rights or peace or what have you, I was saying they mean something completely different than what most people mean when they use those words. But I got a lot of comments from people saying, oh yeah, that's doublespeak. Or hypocrisy or deception. But no, this is actually what I was trying to explain at that time. You know, I normally wouldn't do a follow-up if people misunderstood what I said, but I think this is extremely important to understand. It's not doublespeak. It's not hypocrisy, and it's not deception. No, they are being completely honest. This was my point. They're being completely honest, completely accurate when they depict, for example, the genocide in Gaza as being completely justified and defensive. They're being completely honest when they said that 1 million babies dying in Iraq from a decade of sanctions was worth it. They're not being hypocritical. They're not saying one thing and meaning another thing. These are their actual values, and you have to understand this. There is a fundamental and profound difference between their values and our values. They're not contradicting their values. You must understand, they're not betraying their values. They are acting on their values with consistency and continuity. Committing massacres against innocent civilians does not trouble their conscience, any more than you stepping on a bug troubles your conscience.
Y'all, when Shahid Bolson, the political analyst who has been predicting the collapse of Western imperialism for years, sits down in 2026 and says that white America's fall is not just possible, but inevitable, that the contradictions built into the system are now accelerating its destruction, and that we're witnessing the final death throes of an empire that thought it would last forever, you better believe we need to pay attention. Because this man has been right about everything. He predicted the economic collapse. He predicted the political chaos. And now, he's saying that 2026 is the year it all comes crashing down. And black folks need to be ready. What's good, family? Welcome back to Chronicles of Blacks, where we amplify prophetic voices, document the collapse of systems that were never meant to last, and prepare Black America for what's coming next. I'm your host, and if this is your first time here, understand that we don't just react to current events. We study patterns. We listen to analysts who understand the system, and we prepare for the future based on what history has already shown us. Before we get into why Shahid Bolson says white America's fall is inevitable in 2026, what signs he's pointing to, and what black people need to do to protect ourselves when the system collapses, make sure you hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that prophetic analysis matters and that we're paying attention. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now, because we're building a community of people who understand that when empires fall, the people who saw it coming are the ones who survive. Let me lay out the facts, because Shahid Bolson's analysis is based on historical patterns and current events. Shahid Bolson is a political analyst and commentator who has spent years studying the rise and fall of empires, the contradictions of capitalism, and the inevitable collapse of systems built on exploitation. He has been particularly focused on the decline of American hegemony and the internal contradictions that are tearing the country apart. In his recent analysis, Bolson argues that 2026 is the tipping point. He points to several key indicators: economic instability, political fragmentation, social unrest, and the loss of global influence. He says that the policies implemented in recent years, including mass deportation, tariffs, cuts to federal programs, and attacks on marginalized communities, have accelerated the collapse. And he warns that when the system falls, it will fall fast and hard.
Turns out you should never sue the driver who crashed into you after a car accident. There's a much better way you could get paid a way bigger check without suing, without going to court, and without dealing with insurance directly. Not many people know this.
Now let's break down the clips.
Conscience. They don't see anything to feel guilty about. They feel that they've done something good. You have to understand this, because if you don't, you will severely and dangerously underestimate their danger. And you'll make the fatal mistake of believing that you can ever appeal to their sense of morality, that you can ever appeal to their conscience. And you'll make the catastrophic mistake of trusting them or trusting their intentions. And wallahi, there are tens of millions of their victims crying out from their graves, telling you not to trust them. You know, just like someone watching a horror movie and shouting at the screen, telling the main character, don't go down that dark alley. If you could hear the voices of their millions of victims, they would tell you exactly what's going to happen to you if you listen to them and if you trust them. If you're Muslim, or you're not white, or you're not rich, you need to recognize that they have zero moral hesitation about killing you. Yes, whether you live outside of America or whether you live inside of America, it's the same to them. The worst thing you can do is ever underestimate this reality. Listen, just like with an individual, you can learn what their values are by what their actions are. Much better than by what their words are. People can tell you all kinds of things about what their values are, what they believe, and so on, what their morals are. But their actions, their deeds will tell you the truth. You don't know anything about what they believe by their words alone. You have to see to what extent their actions align with their words, because people do things that they believe are morally acceptable. Now, sure, that doesn't mean that people always act in accordance with their conscience. People can slip up. There can be aberrations. We're human beings. But the actions that someone commits habitually, regularly, routinely, with consistency, this is what they believe in. Whatever they say to the contrary is just them lying either to you or to themselves or both. But you have to believe what they do, not what they say. And like I said, when they say that what they do is moral, then that tells you what they consider to be moral behavior. Because it's not like America ever apologized. Until now, they've got the Native Americans held up in reservations, and they're poisoning them right now with uranium. And I'm telling you, they're doing that because they believe it is morally acceptable to do that. No, don't you ever think that they are like you and I. They're not like us. This is incredibly dangerous. They're bloodthirsty, and they see nothing wrong whatsoever in quenching that thirst. The same way that you see nothing wrong with drinking a glass of water, they can spill your blood with the same nonchalance. And all you have to do is look at their history to know that. And you know, they'll always say, oh, every civilization was violent. Every empire was violent. America isn't unique, or the West isn't unique about that. There's nothing strangely distinct about the West in terms of violence. Okay, look, let's look at the Muslims. Because this is something that they love to talk about. Muslim conquest, Muslim wars, jihad, Islam spread by the sword, and what have you, right? Part of being a Muslim is that you have to tell the truth. Whether it's for you or against you, you have to tell the truth. We don't get to spin narratives and pretend that those narratives are reality. We have to actually be honest. So I'll tell you, over the course of 1,400 years, millions of non-Muslims died at the hands of Muslims. That's a fact. No denying it. Obviously, exact figures are impossible to ascertain. And the numbers of casualties in battles back in those old days are generally understood to be exaggerated. But according to historians, from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam until today, somewhere between 15 to 25 million non-Muslims have been killed by Muslims. That includes the battles in Persia, the Byzantine Empire, the Levant, Egypt, and so on. You know, the early conquests, it includes Spain, all the battles of the Umayyads, the Abbasids, the Seljuks, the Ottomans, and so on. It also includes the massacres against the Armenians and the Assyrians. It even includes the civil war in Sudan, South Sudan, Darfur. It even includes acts of terrorism by like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and others. Now, of course, overwhelmingly, the majority of those casualties throughout history have been soldiers in battle, not civilians. But there were civilians too, obviously. So over the course of 1,400 years, Muslims killed around 15 to 25 million non-Muslims. That sounds like a lot, right? That makes you think that, yeah, it's true. Every civilization, every empire was violent. So why point to the West so particularly? Well, because in roughly a third of that amount of time, the West killed 275 million more people. You slaughtered, genocided, starved, bombed, murdered 300 million people in just the last 500 years. In fact, America alone has killed in just my lifetime almost as many people as the total killed by the Muslims in 1,400 years. Imagine. You killed in just the last 50 years the equivalent of all non-Muslims killed in every war ever fought by the Muslim empires in over a millennium. That's why we point to the West specifically. Do you understand? Because that's strange. It's abnormal. It's unique. And by the way, from that 300 million that you killed through slavery, through colonization, through engineered famines, through sanctions, and through war, we're not even talking about mostly soldiers being killed. We're talking about mostly civilians. You know, even in your wars, between 50% to 70% of the casualties have been civilians. Yes, you stand out in history. So like I said, you know people by their deeds. You know them, you know what they believe by their deeds, their habitual, continuous deeds, not their aberrations, okay? The Spanish conquest of the Americas, 70 million dead. British colonialism, minimum 150 million killed. The transatlantic slave trade, at least 15 to 25 million killed. French colonial wars, 25 million. Congo, 20 million. Genocide of the Native Americans, upwards of 90 to 100 million. On and on. The Holocaust, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Iraq, Afghanistan, now Gaza. It doesn't stop with you. The fact is that the Muslim empire, across time, relative to its size and duration, has the least amount of blood spilt than any other empire in human history, and that's a fact. Even if you go back to the Roman Empire. Our conquests were the least destructive, our conquests were the least deadly, and the most successful and the most peaceful in integrating and tolerating and cultivating the people of the lands that we entered. Versus a total annihilation, extermination, enslavement, subjugation, pillage, and plunder of what you all did. This is your way. You were and are absolutely outstanding at it. Outstanding as in you stand out because of it. And you do that because you truly believe in it. And like I said, you really don't care if your victims are outside of America or inside of America. Because if you look inside America, what do you see? You see a society built on brutality, a nation whose foundation is violence, not just internationally, but domestically as well. The same ethos that drove the slaughter of the indigenous people, the enslavement of Africans, the subjugation of entire nations abroad, is the same ethos that fuels the police brutality in your streets, the economic strangulation of your poor, the educational deprivation of entire communities, the mass incarceration of your underclass, and the legal subjugation of so-called minority groups. I mean, just look at the statistics. You have more people in prison than any other country on earth, both in absolute numbers and per capita. Over 2 million people behind bars, and a disproportionately high number of them are so-called black people, African Americans, and Latinos. The so-called land of the free runs a for-profit prison industry where corporations like Core Civic and Geo Group literally make money from human suffering. That's why America criminalizes poverty, why minor infractions turn into life sentences, and why recidivism is designed into the system, because prisons are a business and human lives are commodities. What about police brutality? Well, every year, I've talked about this so many times, thousands of Americans, thousands, are gunned down by the very people who are sworn to protect you. Your police departments are outfitted like military units, armed with tanks, automatic weapons, treating their own citizens like they're an occupying army, the way an occupying army treats an enemy population. And who bears the brunt of this? Who are the prime targets for this domestic war? Was African Americans, Latino youth, indigenous communities, so-called minorities, members of the global majority. The same groups that have been subjected to violence for centuries in their countries of origin. And then there's your economic violence. The way your whole system is structured ensures that the rich get rich and the poor get crushed under an unbearable weight of debt, stagnating wages, impossible cost of living, on and on. How many millions of Americans are just one medical emergency away from bankruptcy? How many families are living paycheck to paycheck, unable to afford health care, unable to afford housing or education? The American economic system is not broken. Understand this. It's functioning exactly as it was designed to function, to extract wealth from the many to funnel it to the few. And if you're born poor in America, well, the system ensures that you stay that way. Your education system is not an equalizer, it's a caste system. Schools in wealthy areas are well-funded with top-tier facilities, while schools in poor neighborhoods are neglected. They're underfunded, and they're deliberately set up to fail, setting their students up to fail. And the reason is obvious, because an educated population is dangerous. An informed citizenry questions authority and challenges injustice. It demands fairness, and America's elites cannot afford that. So they keep entire communities ignorant. They keep them disempowered. They keep them hopeless, funneling them into either the prison system or the cycle of wage slavery. And we all know that discrimination in America is woven into the very fabric of your laws, the very fabric of your institutions and everyday interactions. So-called black Americans are still fighting for basic human dignity, for fair treatment in the courts, in housing, fair treatment in housing and employment and so on. Native Americans, like I say, are still confined to reservations, their land still stolen, their water poisoned, their sovereignty ignored. And all of this, the brutality, the oppression, the violence, is not accidental. It's the natural consequence of a nation built on exploitation. America doesn't simply commit atrocities abroad.
Because Shahid Bolson's analysis is devastating in its accuracy. In one video, Bolson says, America is fundamentally good, and it only occasionally makes mistakes. This is patently false. It's systematic. You believe that the Constitution is some sort of a sacred document representing universal values. That's false. You believe that American institutions can be reformed to serve justice. Absolutely not. You can't take an electric chair and convert it into a life support system. Here's my verdict on this clip. Bolson just dismantled the myth of American exceptionalism. He's saying that the system is not broken. It's working exactly as it was designed, and no amount of reform will change that. The only option is collapse and replacement.
Now we gotta go help people customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Libby, where's the golf cart? There it is. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Do you realize how much money this will save us?
What was that?
I just built a budgeting app with Base 44. Look, it pulls all our expenses in.
In another clip, Bolson talks about the economic collapse. He says, "You've killed in just the last 2 decades almost half the total deaths Muslims caused through dozens and dozens of battles over 1,000 years. You'll say that's because of technology, but you don't understand that that's nothing but an admission of what I'm saying. It's a confession, because violence and brutality are made possible by 2 capabilities: the weapons and the will. In other words, there's no question about you having the will. So the more technologically sophisticated you become, it just means that the scale of your violence will increase."
It practices the same cruelty within its own borders. The same system that bombs and starves nations overseas is the same system that allows African Americans to be lynched in broad daylight by the police, allows corporations to strip their workers of humanity, and turns entire cities into wastelands of poverty and despair for corporate profits. The most dangerous mistake that you can make is to think that this system can be reformed. To think that those who benefit from that system will one day grow a conscience, because they won't. They're doing exactly what they believe is right, exactly what their values dictate. And unless you recognize this, unless you understand the nature of what you're dealing with, you will continue to be trapped in an illusion, thinking that change will come from within a system that was designed to crush you. The brutality is not a bug. It's the system working exactly as intended. Nothing's gone wrong. The misery and the bloodshed and the savagery all fall under their definition of morality. And that completely disorients anyone who knows it's immoral. And in that state of disorientation, they get the drop on you. That disorientation is all part of their hunting strategy. You know, when a lamb thinks about food, he's thinking about grazing in the field. But when a wolf thinks about food, he's thinking about that lamb. It's the same word, food, but 2 completely different understandings about what is intended by that word. So no, as a Muslim, we have to tell the truth. And I have to tell you the truth about that country. It's my country. It's where I come from. I know its ways. My ancestors were Irish, colonized for 800 years. Now you come to tell me, try to convince me that it's all because of the Jews, because of the Zionists, because of AIPAC. No, we can sniff that out right away, what that is. That's blame shifting, shifting responsibility. I mean, I could go along with it too. That's the easiest thing in the world to go along with. That's what they're going to do anyway next. That's the program. That's going to become the new official narrative. Israel blackmailed them. No, the Israelis are responsible for every crime that they committed, but every crime that they committed was on your behalf, and everyone knows it. You got a people, you have never done anything but hate for centuries to commit crimes on your behalf, colonial crimes, genocidal crimes, so that you can slither your way out of accountability when the time comes. The more you big up your so-called Judeo-Christian camaraderie, the more you big up your undying devotion to Israel, well, the more you'll be able to act like you've been betrayed. And you can justify cutting them loose. I see what you're doing. No one will ever be able to accuse you of being anti-Jewish because of all the love that you expressed, all the support you gave, and all the praise that you showered on them. But genocide apparently didn't feel like betrayal. Mass murder didn't hurt your feelings. But if they've got dirt on Bobby Kennedy Jr., that's crossing a red line, is it? If they took pictures of you at Epstein Island, that's betrayal. That's dastardly. Not murdering over 50,000 men, women, and children in Gaza. You see their morality? They'll use something like this to cut Israel loose, not ethnic cleansing. And they think that they're going to be able to wash their hands of 8 decades of brutality that they sponsored, that they funded, that they armed, that they provided political coverage for. They need an enemy to brutalize, and they need a mechanism of plausible deniability to try to maintain their image of innocence of the brutality that they commit. Oh yes, I could go along with that narrative. You know, lay all the blame at the feet of the Jews. Allah knows there's millions of Muslims who are ready to also go along with it, because they are still so enamored themselves with the West, so colonized in their own mind, so indoctrinated with their love for America and so propagandized and so inculcated with white supremacy themselves that they can't bear to face the reality that no one has ever had to blackmail America into committing atrocities. In fact, it's the exact opposite. The only way to make them not commit atrocities is to pay them off. They've been in the protection racket and the extortion business ever since they had a navy. But I can't go along with that narrative, that blame-shifting narrative. Yes, the Israelis are guilty, but they're nothing but a bunch of white European atheist colonizers. They're nothing but a pseudo-Jewish brigade of American imperialism. That's what they are, imposing American values on Palestine. Every century that America has existed, since 1776, every century has had a higher death toll than the last. From the hundreds of thousands in the 18th century to the millions in the 19th century to the tens of millions in the 20th century, and you're already over 6 million in just the last 20 years. You don't get to be that continuously violent, that consistently savage, and that persistently psychopathic, and still get to call yourselves the greatest country on earth unless that is exactly how you measure greatness. You understand? You've killed in just the last 2 decades almost half the total deaths Muslims caused through dozens and dozens of battles over 1,000 years. You know, you'll say that's because of technology, but you don't understand that that's nothing but an admission of what I'm saying. It's a confession. Because violence and brutality are made possible by two capabilities, the weapons and the will. In other words, there's no question about you having the will. So the more technologically sophisticated you become, it just means that the scale of your violence will increase. Because it's just a given that you're going to be violent. Because again, that's what you believe in. Those are your morals. Those are your values. Like, of course, we're going to kill. And if we have more efficient ways of killing, then obviously we're just going to kill even more. That's what you're saying. I mean, I know we'll never get the predator to own up to his predatory, bloodthirsty values, but at least the victims need to face the reality. The global South, the Muslim world, the Muslims in America, so-called minorities in America, the poor in America, everyone needs to know. A wolf's conscience is not bothered when he devours his prey. He doesn't see a victim, he just sees a meal. And he's not going to change his nature. He's got his hunting strategy, so you have to focus on your survival strategy.
Let me say this before we go on, because y'all gonna start saying that's the Muslim, y'all gonna start putting it in a religious atmosphere, a religious mindset. But I want you to think about what it means. Muslim, one who submits to truth, because God is truth. One who submits to truth, or one who submits to God. If you submit to God, that means that you are God. Because to submit to God is to walk in God's ways. Now I know what you're saying, there ain't no God except for us. And what is God's ways? God's ways are ways of righteousness. And anyone who has the desire and the will to walk in righteousness is a child of God. You notice I said the will, the desire, and the will. Because the desire without the will is nothing. It's just a desire. It's just a feeling, a want. But the will is an action. It's actually doing, it's actually becoming all that you know is good and righteous. You know, so I want us to think about that, because we seem to forget that sometimes. And we get to the point that we want to do all these crazy things. But you know, when you think about the scriptures and you think about what they taught, because that's all the brothers are teaching. Righteousness, the separation from good and evil. It's time to separate. It's time to separate with all those that submit to righteousness. Because that's God. To all those that submit to love, because God is love. At least the God that we worship. There's another God, the God of the world, the one that he's talking about. And if you're of that world, then you're of that God. You're children of the God of this world if you follow the world practices, if you think like the world thinks. So you have to renew your mind. You have to renew your mind with the minds of the anointed ones, those who are anointed in love, with love. You have to be anointed with love to be able to walk in love. Love has to be a great desire within you, a great craving within you. You just can't do it because you say that's what you want to do. It has to be a craving in you. It has to be a desire in you, because anything that you desire, you will achieve. As a man believeth in his heart, so is he. So you got to believe that you are good before you can even become good. Let's get back into the message.
So at the very
Sorry about that.
least, you have to recognize when you're...
Here's my verdict on this clip. Bolson is saying that America's violence is not an aberration. It's the foundation. And as the empire declines, that violence will turn inward. We're already seeing it with police brutality, mass incarceration, and political violence. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. In a third clip, Bolson talks about the inevitability of the collapse. He says, every century that America has existed since 1776, every century has had a higher death toll than the last. From the hundreds of thousands in the 18th century, to the millions in the 19th century, to the tens of millions in the 20th century, and you're already over 6 million in just the last 20 years. You don't get to be that continuously violent, that consistently savage, and that persistently psychopathic, and still get to call yourselves the greatest country on earth, unless that is exactly how you measure greatness. Here's my verdict on this clip. Bolson is saying that the violence is escalating, the contradictions are intensifying, and the collapse is inevitable.
I'm from Renewal by Anderson, and we've helped thousands of customers who are on a budget get our windows and doors for their home.
And 2026 is the year it all comes to a head. Let's talk about the hypocrisy, because it's suffocating. This is the same America that claims to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. But it has the largest prison population in the world and spends more on military than the next 10 countries combined. This is the same country that says it values democracy and human rights, but it has overthrown democratically elected governments, supported dictators, and committed war crimes across the globe. This is the same nation that says it's a beacon of hope and opportunity, but it has the highest rates of poverty, homelessness, and inequality in the developed world.
Yes.
Not this family, not that. You can't claim to be the greatest country on earth and have the worst outcomes for your people. You can't claim to value freedom and have the largest prison population. You can't claim to be a democracy and overthrow other democracies. Now let's connect this to the system, because Bolson's analysis is about more than just America. It's about how empires collapse. In economics, the system depends on exploitation. When you can no longer exploit others, the system collapses. America's economy is built on cheap labor, stolen resources, and financial manipulation.
That's right.
As other countries rise and refuse to be exploited, America's economic power declines. In politics, the system depends on division. When the divisions become too extreme, the system fractures. America is more divided now than at any point since the Civil War.
Yes.
And that division is accelerating.
Yes.
In culture, the system depends on the myth of superiority. When that myth is exposed, the system loses legitimacy. America's myth of exceptionalism is crumbling as the world sees the violence, the inequality, and the hypocrisy. In military power, the system depends on dominance. When you lose that dominance, the empire falls. America is losing wars, losing allies, and losing influence. This is the playbook. Exploit, divide, lie, dominate, and collapse. And America is following that playbook to the letter. Let me bring this home with real voices, because people are living through this collapse right now. A teacher told me she's watching her school lose funding, her students lose hope, and her community lose faith in the system. She said it feels like everything is falling apart. A worker shared that his factory closed, his benefits were cut, and his community is dying. He said he doesn't recognize the country anymore. A student said she's drowning in debt, can't find a job, and doesn't believe the American dream exists. She said her generation has given up on the system. These stories prove that the collapse is real, the suffering is real, and the people are losing faith. The Bible says pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before a fall. And that's exactly what we're witnessing. The pride of thinking America would last forever. The arrogance of believing the empire was invincible. The foolishness of ignoring history and thinking this time would be different. Shahid Bolson is saying that the fall is inevitable. And 2026 is the year it happens. Family, let this be a lesson. Shahid Bolson has been right about everything. And he's saying that white America's fall is inevitable in 2026. The economic collapse is accelerating. The political chaos is...
I want to stop it for a second because he said the white domination is about to fall. But the point is, we see it falling. We know it's going to fall. It's falling as we speak. But what are we going to do after the fall? What are we going to be doing during the fall? Are we going to fall with them, or are we going to rise up? That's the question we got to ask ourselves. And we can't rise up unless we're in unity with one another. Think on that.
Is intensifying. The social unrest is spreading, and the empire is crumbling. The question is not if it will fall. The question is what happens when it does. And the answer depends on what we do right now. Here's what I need y'all to understand. When the system collapses, there will be chaos.
Yes.
There will be violence.
Yes.
There will be attempts to blame black people and other marginalized communities.
Yes.
That's why we need to be prepared. We need to build our own institutions.
Yes.
We need to create our own economic systems.
Yes.
We need to protect our own communities.
So true.
And we need to make sure that when the empire falls, we're not caught in the rubble.
This is what we've been
Shahid
trying to
Bolson
teach
is
y'all for
warning
years.
us. History is warning us.
Yes.
And the signs are all around us.
And I've been
The
telling
fall
y'all
is
this.
inevitable.
Yes.
And it's happening now.
Right now.
So here's my message to Black America. Listen to Shahid Bolson. Prepare for the collapse. Build for yourselves. Protect your families. Create safety nets. Invest in Black institutions. And stay out of the chaos. Because when white America falls, they're going to try to take us down with them. But we're not going down. We're going to rise. We're going to build. And we're going to create something better from the ashes of their empire. Drop a comment and let me know. Do you think Shahid Bolson is right that the fall is inevitable in 2026? What are you doing to prepare? And what do you think Black America should do when the system collapses? Make sure you subscribe, because we're going to keep documenting the collapse, amplifying prophetic voices, and preparing for what comes next. Until next time, fam.
Until next time, I want you to think about what you heard. Think about what's happening. And then think about not just the consequences. Think about where you're going to be. Where's your mindset going to be? Are you going to be selfish? Divided from your own? Are you going to fight with those who's losing, that you know gonna lose? Or are you gonna stand with your brothers and your sisters and others who are ready to strive for righteousness? I'm just being real with you. We're at that time now where you got this. This is the war of Armageddon. The war between right and wrong, between good and evil. Evil is anything that goes against love. We are God. Anything that goes against love goes against us. We have a righteous order of doing things. We have to get back into that. There's a way that seems right to man, but the end thereof is destruction to man. But there's a way that is known to the spiritual beings that ends in eternal life for our children. But we have to be planting the seed, and the seed is not being planted right now. The only seed that's being planted right now is seeds that grow up and die. We got to plant good seed. Where the bad seed been planted. We got to pull up the weeds so that the shaft can grow. Listen, I ain't never been playing. I've always been serious about this thing, and I'm serious to this day. I don't associate with everybody. I show love to everyone. But I listen to what you say. That let me know if I need to be with you or not. That let me know if I should be around you. And I know those that I'm supposed to be around. I'm supposed to be around those that are like me. Everything in nature associates with its own kind. But my own kind are those who are ready to live in love and unity with each other, because you can't have unity without love. Love is the foundation that holds our unity together. Hey, so you make sure that you subscribe, you hit that subscribe button, and you stay tuned to the things that we speak on, because it's things that will bring us into a new order, a new world, a one world order for us and our people, our world, our order, which is the order of love, because love brings peace, love brings unity, love brings the building together. Love brings all that is good, all that is holy, all that is pure. So until then, I'm going to leave you with this last music note. Thank you.
Yeah. Kinetic love, ancient, royal, divine. We honor one another through space and through time. You stood strong and I am moved by your embrace. My spirit awakens, my heart begins to race. I feel alarmed only by how deeply I feel. A sacred union written in stars, so real. I am ready to rise beyond this human shell, to walk with we where gods and ancestors dwell. Yeah. yeah. And love, ecstasy be the river we bathe in free. Let passion be altar, let you become me. And we rise like Azar in an acid in cosmic grace. Oh yeah, two souls reborn, one divine embrace. I wanna say it. Comedic love, we align like gold on the Nile. You stood firm like pyramids, been here a while. Your touch woke the gods in the chambers of me. A connection so deep it rewrites destiny. Pray. I'm ready to share this flesh-bound pace. Ascend with you, leave this human race. Stars whisper truth in our sacred space. Lay you down right under moonlit flame. We build, we bound, no fear, no shame. I love to be gay. No house we fight, we follow, obey. As he calls and you obey. Divine in spirit, forever is sleep. Celebration, a tongue of power, fine like ancient magic. I call your spirit to meet mine in the house of life and time. By Maud's balance, truth we keep. By acid's love, our bond runs deep. No, we tame or perish. We grow like Nile waters. Their ever flow. Ecstasy as offering, union as key. Two souls in tune, bound by a legacy. Slowly share on as it be. So shall it be.
Peace and love, peace and love. I thank you for joining us. We do not own the copyrights to any of this music that you have heard. I hope that you do love it. This music that you have been hearing today is owned by the NBPP. That's right, the New Black Panther Party, baby. So go ahead, grab a hold of it, listen to it, and let it dig deep into your minds and your soul so it can begin to change your way of thinking. Play it at all times so it can renew your mind. Hey, peace and one love. I thank you for joining us. Remember, my name is Elijah X, and I'll see you around later. Until then, we leave you with our love.